Yo, what up, Blackish fam? I hope all is well in your corner of the world. Man, got a new setup, right? I'm in the front part of my house on the first floor. My daughter was actually playing Roblox and jacked up my computer last night. So until I get it checked out, I got to use one of these Macs. But man, really excited to get into this one. Someone in the comment section said you got to check out God Complex featuring King Crook or King Crooked, I'm not sure, and Sa-Roc. Now we did a King Crooked song once. It was called Bandana, I believe. This was about a year ago. And we got into Sa-Roc. Man, I love her wordplay. She uses a lot of, she's one that's really in tune with her spirituality. So you'll hear a lot of political and kind of old, I guess, religious references as well. But it's been a minute since I got into some Sa-Roc, so really excited to do this. And again, this one is called God Complex. Let's let it go. Feels so good being without my headphones.
It's Crook. C-O-B. God is gang. Rolling through the forest as the hardest lyrical artist. These don't get a rolling through the forest as the hardest lyrical artist. With these don't get a palm. I'm killing off instrumentals in my leisure. For me, it's easy to be elite. Not only do I hear it, got synesthesia, I see the beat. Let the speaker speak, I'm the syllable man.
He says synesthesia, right? That's a name for a disorder. It's where you start, you can experience one of your senses through another one of your senses, right? So let's say you say, anytime somebody says the name Samantha, you see the color red, right? Or you might read something and all of a sudden you get a taste in your mouth, right? There's some wires are twisted between your senses. So that's sick. And he said, I could see the beat, right? Let's let it ride.
Not only do I hear it, got synesthesia, I see the beat. Let the speaker speak, I'm the syllable Machiavelli. I'm winning like the cat with the fattest belly.
Yeah, see, he's going out, listen to the wordplay, right? He said he lets the speaker speak. He said, I'm the symbol Machiavelli, right? Just excellent wordplay there.
I see the beat. Let the speaker speak, I'm the syllable Machiavelli. I'm winning like the cat with the fattest belly. I don't even see the feet. Black revolution.
Ooh, did you all catch that? I know, because I got the dad belly too, right? He said, I'm winning like the cat with the fat belly. I don't even see the feet, right? When you got a fat belly, you can always see your feet, but it's a word. You might not be able to see your dick, but you can see your feet, right? But what he's saying is, the wordplay is there. Because his belly's so large, you can't see his feet. But also he's playing on defeat, right? Because he's winning. Sick.
Be elite. Not only do I hear it, got synesthesia, I see the beat. Let the speaker speak, I'm the syllable Machiavelli. I'm winning like the cat with the fattest belly. I don't even see the feet. Black revolution, How can a master emancipate? Mansa Musa, handsome rap executioner.
Bro, and I've done an entire video on who Mansa Musa was. That's who he referenced. And I get that with Sa-Roc a lot too, and even Black Thought, that they're referencing Mansa Musa. Easiest way to understand Mansa Musa, if you want to get really get into who he was, I have a video in one of my breakdowns. I did an entire video on him. But this was a young man that really became a king in Africa. And this was one of the richest men on the planet. We still, to this day, can't really translate how much money he had. But this guy took his pilgrimage, right? He was a Muslim. A pilgrimage they call Hajj. And this guy supposedly brought like 50, 60,000 people with him that all had silk robes and were well taken care of. A lot of these people were actually slaves. And they said that he took over multiple areas around the world so that he can gather slaves. Building up for this to this pilgrimage. But he was so rich that every Friday they said he built a mosque. He went around with all of his people carried gold bars, and they say that he spent so much money that he actually brought down the price of gold. To him, he would give gold away for salt because that was more important. He had an abundant resource of gold, right? But there's a lot of history there. But he was one of the richest people in history. And yes, it in fact was a black man from Africa that ended up bringing a lot of intellectuals back to Africa to help build on becoming a Muslim and practicing. And he did a lot of good in the world at his time. Very impressive. This is somebody that did inherit the land when he was a young man, but what he did to build that kingdom is very impressive.
How can a master emancipate Mansa Musa though? Had to rap executioner. Fuck these rap executives, let's grab text and shoot them up. For the rap checks, crackheads to have sex with Lucifer. This rap shit has been a joke. I just put it in a chokehold till it pass out, then I mash out like the posse. With cash in my
Oh, he said he mash out like the posse. Right? He's talking about MOP. That's a hip hop duo. It's East Coast. That's was that Billy Dance and was that Lil Fame? I think it is.
It's been a joke. I just put it in a chokehold till it pass out, then I mash out like the posse. With cash in my envelope, straps in my winter coat. Imagine somebody killing your family, you getting revenge by slashing the killer's throat. My passion's identical to that when I'm rapping. When it comes to spazzing,
you hear what he said about how much passion he has? He said, imagine somebody killing your family and you get revenge by being able to slash the killer's throat. His passion's identical to that.
By slashing the killer's throat, my passion's identical to that when I'm rapping. When it comes to spaz, and I've been to go hit the track with the illest flow. Still leaking ghost through, body bag in the ghost too. No lie, you polygraphing the wrong dude. So true, me and Rock probably smacking your whole crew. Shooting for the stars, I'm autographing your dome too. When I'm in the booth, spit.
The wordplay there, like he said, shooting for the stars. That seemed like he was still playing off body bagging the goats too, right? The goats, the greatest of all time. Like the goats in hip hop. He said, I'm coming for everybody, right? He said, I've been the goat. I got the illest flow. He said he's eating goat stew, right? Sick. I don't know if they said he's polygraphing the wrong dude. Oh, okay, and then he played it off. It says, so true, right? Like true or false statements that you get when you're in a polygraph test. But I like what he said. He said, shooting for the stars, right? There could also be a play, Kanye had a great line where he said, aim for the stars, so if you fall, you land on a cloud, right? But I believe he's talking about shooting some stars.
Back in the ghost too. No lie, you polygraphing the wrong dude. So true. Me and Rock probably smacking your whole crew. Shooting for the stars, I'm autographing your dome too. When I'm in the booth spitting, it's a privilege to witness it. Like seeing Moses sitting with his Ethiopian wife writing the sentences of Genesis.
Ooh, see, I love some wordplay where it's an intellectual, right? I'm not the best with my religious references, but I do know that it is in fact a fact that Moses had not one, but he had two black wives. You never hear about that, right? You talk about writing Genesis or whatnot, but his two wives were, I believe, Zipporah and Tharbis. I don't know if I'm, my religious references aren't always on point. But yes, he did in fact have a wife that was black, which again, it's just not something you hear about much. I believe she was from Egypt.
Witness it like seeing Moses sitting with his Ethiopian wife writing the sentences of Genesis. Poetry filled with religious images. This is quintessential penmanship. This is it. No more talking. When death comes for you, it's 6 coffins for your top 5. I left one for you. Going through the forest as the hardest lyrical artist.
Sa-Roc, I didn't see her in a little bit.
Going through the forest as the hardest
Looking more mature.
Came into this thing with a pipe dream and a crude sense of the grind. Now my tongue slicker than black ice, flow is refined. No matter dough can replace the sweet thrill of my climb.
Bro, her flow is just, you could tell she's got years of practice. You could hear it in her, right? Just the flow is so smooth. And she came in saying that her tongue is slicker than black ice, right? Black ice when water is it's slick, right? Let's say water freezes, then defrosts, and then freezes again. You get a layer of ice. When you're on asphalt, they call that black ice because you can't see it, but it's slippery as hell. Sick.
My tongue slicker than black ice, flow is refined. No matter dough can replace the sweet thrill of my climb, and I still ain't reached to my peak. My work too stick to the fine. Rock on the red paint.
Wordplay, right? Then she did two things there. She did wordplay off dough, right? something about, she talked about being refined. She flowed off a grind, but she's talking about refined and then dough. Refined dough, it sounds like she's referencing refined sugar, right? Or refined carbohydrates, if you would, like bread, what is it, cereal, pasta, rice. It's normally considered empty calories, right? But what did she say there? She said dough, refined dough, and then sweet, right? And then I think she was playing off her climb. She said something about the thrill of the climb.
To the grind, now my tongue slicker than black ice, flow is refined. No amount of dough can replace the sweet thrill of my climb, and I still ain't reached to my peak. My work too stick to the fine.
Yeah, she's doing some wordplay of like mountain climbing or something, right? She's talking about her climb. She said the thrill of my climb, right? And she came back to say she hadn't reached her peak, like she hadn't reached her peak in hip hop, but she also didn't reach the peak as she's climbing up the mountain. And then she said, too steep, right? The slope of the mountain, how steep it is. And again, no wordplay there, but again, referencing just mountain or rock climbing.
Can replace the sweet thrill of my climb, and I still ain't reached to my peak. My work too stick to the fine. Rock on a rampage, and no, I ain't talking Dwayne. I'm terrorizing all the hype. Still a lonely monster.
She said rock on a rampage, right? It's a word with a double meaning there because she's rock. She's on a rampage, a rap rampage. She's Sa-Roc. But she's also talking about The Rock, Dwayne Johnson, who was in the movie Rampage. It was a play off the old school video games, right? Monster attacking monster and shit. But what did she say? She said, I ain't talking D-Wade. Again, referencing Dwayne Johnson, The Rock, in the movie Rampage. Sick.
Rock on a rampage, and no, I ain't talking Dwayne. I'm terrorizing all the hype. He's still the only monster remain.
Did I say D-Wade? Right, what am I thinking of? What's dude from back in the day? Dwayne Wade. Dwayne Wade. Caught it, lost it.
Rock on a rampage, and no, I ain't talking Dwayne. I'm terrorizing all the hype. He's still the only monster remaining. Rap Chupacabra. Might just be Chupacabra.
Now, she said hype beast. That's not normally, yeah, obviously she's referring to the beast from Rampage. But a hype beast, and maybe I'm incorrect here, but a hype beast is someone who gets their hype about acquiring high-end things, right? Gucci loafers, Gucci slides, Supreme, Balenciaga, right? It's a person that's obsessed with this, making those powerful statements with their clothes. But maybe she happened to run it back, and let me see if I heard it right. I believe she said hype beast.
Reach to my peak, my work too stick to the fine. Rock on a rampage, and no, I ain't talking Dwayne. I'm terrorizing all the hype. He's still the only monster remaining. Rap Chupacabra. Might just be too macabre for the flames. I'm used to talking and killing beats, even putrefied and acclaimed. But now I'm
Ooh, god damn. So she, let alone the hype beast, right? I thought I was just saying, okay, she did well there. Terrorizing, talking about the hype beast. She's the only monster remaining, she said, right? But then what she said about the rap Chupacabra, Chupacabra is like an urban legend in Puerto Rico. It's something that would suck the blood out of livestock, and it's a beast in itself. So she's still playing off the Rampage bars, right? But she said macabre, right? Macabre. People say it differently, but Macabre, I believe is the spelling. I've always said macabre, but I kind of left the RE out. But she's talking about it's, she just might be too dark, if you would. She's always talking about violence and death, right? Injury, horrible, disturbing things. That's what it means to be too macabre. But I think she said she's too macabre for the plane. But she said something about putrefied, so let's hear it. It sounds like more beast references.
talking Dwayne. I'm terrorizing all the hype. He's still the only monster remaining. Rap Chupacabra. Might just be too macabre for the flames. I'm used to talking and killing beats, even putrefied and acclaimed. But now I'm more
talking about killing the beat, right? Let alone killing the verses. She said she's too macabre for the plane, which means she's too dark for most people listening. But she's used to stalking, not just killing beats, but stalking and killing beats. And she used it putrefied and unclaimed, like she just left it for dead, all the sloppy seconds on the side of the road. Sick.
To a kind for the flames, I'm used to stalking and killing beats, even putrefied and acclaimed.
No, and even though she's aging, man, she's a beautiful woman, right? She's you know, a little red bone, a little cute thing.
Might just be too kind for the flames. I'm used to stalking and killing beats, even putrefied and acclaimed. But now I'm more compassionate when I take a stab at these clip notes. Don't even let the ink dry before I lay on the rest with a switch stroke. Born with the face of an angel, vocal arrangements like I'm a Mephisto. Stick 'em with 3 of my deadliest litanies.
She knows though too. She said she was born with the face of an angel, right? But the vocal, what did she say? The vocal arrangements like a Mephisto. You don't hear that too often, but that's it's a character that I believe is actually owned by the Marvel franchise. But it basically means demon. It's a form of a demon.
But now I'm more compassionate when I take a stab at these clip notes. Don't even let the ink dry before I lay on the rest with a switch stroke. Born with the face of an angel, vocal arrangements like I'm a Mephisto. Stick 'em with 3 of my deadliest litanies set to a melody. Call it a pitchfork. My melanin stain allows me to.
Whoa, what did she say there?
Pistol, stick 'em with 3 of my deadliest litanies set to a melody. Call it a pitchfork. My melanin stain allows me to dwell in the flames like Osiris. My papyrus made me underworld king. Keep a chalice full of hibiscus like blood in my veins. Y'all know my body, yo, goddess. Ain't fucking with none of my gang. Ain't taking in none of my chains. His hoping they took it well. My future code in your obsolete like tokens and brook the rail. The holy book of Sa-Roc got the glow. Pushing my tail depicted on the walls of Kxng with the soul crook and the flail.
Ooh, shit. You know, she's bringing that fire. She's talking about the melanin stains allows her to dwell in flames. And she said like Osiris. And something about papyrus, basically like the paper of the day. But Osiris, Isis and Osiris, it sounds like who she's referencing there. Some people know them as the twin flames, right? It's expressed differently because I think they were husband and wife and brother and sister. It's a little weird. But I believe that's what she's talking about, right? And then Osiris is murdered. And then, you know, I don't really know the history of this too much, but I believe Isis takes Osiris's parts and puts them together, kind of Frankensteins them long enough to create what's called Horus, right? This is part of mythology. And then Osiris becomes the ruler of the land of the dead. It's something along those lines. I might have missed a little parts of it there, but you know, it's basically about the dismemberment of Osiris, and Osiris again starts to rule the dead, if you would. So they're right.
Flames like Osiris, my papyrus made me underworld king. Keep it chap.
Made me underworld king. So she is referencing him becoming ruler of the land of the dead. Man, I'm surprised I remember as much mythology as I do.
Allows me to dwell in the flames like Osiris. My papyrus made me underworld king. Keep a chalice full of hibiscus like blood in my veins. Y'all know my body, yo, goddess. Ain't fucking with none of my gang. Ain't taking in none of my chains. His hoping they took it well. My future code in your obsolete like tokens and brook the rail.
She said, I ain't tucking in none of my chains, bro. I ain't no bitch.
My chains, his hoping they took it well. My future code in your obsolete like tokens and brook the rail. The holy book of Sa-Roc got the.
I know that it could be the same anywhere, but she said her future is golden, right? Y'all are obsolete like tokens in the Brooklyn Rail. We had the same out here in Chicago. We had little bus tokens. You had half-price tokens and full-price tokens, and you would have to buy those, or you can give your kids tokens so they won't get robbed and they can still jump on the bus, right? That's old school, man. That's 90s.
Took it well, my future code in your obsolete like tokens and brook the rail. The holy book of Sa-Roc got the glow, pushing my tail depicted on the walls of Kxng with the soul crook and the flail. That's Pharaoh talk, heroes descended from Pharaoh's talk, so I go ride them till it put my Bible to the barrel shot. Say my arrow rap, no drama rap native like arrow rap. My commander, this cadence make him Yosemite like arrow fat. Arrow rap, no drama rap native like elk, so I go ride them till it put my Bible to the barrel shot. Say my arrow rap, no drama rap native like arrow rap. My commander, this cadence make him Yosemite like arrow fat.
She said she's a rap native like Arawak, right? Arawak is, she's referring to the Arawak, they're indigenous people that are in like South America and the Caribbean. Sick. I don't know if a lot of cats are catching those. Her bar's got a lot of history. She's talking about the pyramids of Giza, and you know, she's very in tune again with her spiritual side, but with her history.
Got the glow pushing my tail depicted on the walls of Kxng with the soul crook and the flail. That's Pharaoh talk, heroes descended from Pharaoh's talk. So I go out and pull it, put my Bible to the barrel shot. Say my arrow rap, the world, I rap native like arrow rap. My command this cadence make him Yosemite like Arafat.
Ooh, she's talking about Arafat. She said her command of her cadence make him yes sir me like Arafat. She's basically saying put some respect on my name, right? Put some respect on my name, like she's an official, she's a commander, and you should acknowledge her as such.
I rap native like Arafat. My command this cadence make him Yosemite like Arafat. I intersect the Clarence sex in the side of Shakur. Commit the met in a gown with two straps and call it.
Oh, bro, again, her references. And I do have to say, going through a lot of her older music, she does reference some of the same things, but she's definitely very knowledgeable about them. Right? She talked about Asada Shakur, who's Tupac Shakur's godmom, and she referenced Cmplx. We've dove into Cmplx before because we explored the 5% Nation. This was very big. We were just getting into Coast Contra breakdowns, and he was like, got my window tint, 5% Nation of Gods, right? And I was like, ooh, because it's once you know about the 5% Nation or understand a little bit about them, you hear references in other types of music. But Cmplx is basically the founder of that movement. His real name was Clarence Edward, if I'm not mistaken, but he just goes by Clarence 13X. Basically, he's the founder of the 5% Nation. And if you guys want to dig into who the 5% Nation is, a quick Google search or a YouTube search they don't really like people speaking on their behalf. But these are some very intellectual people in the African American community that have certain beliefs that they were really spread through the early days of hip hop. But also Asada Shakur, for those that don't know who she is, she was more or less, you could call her a political activist. Some might call her a terrorist, right? But she was a member of the Black Liberation Army. She was also convicted of first-degree murder for killing a state trooper. But she got a really interesting story. She was actually broken out of jail. She fled the U.S. to Cuba, where she came out in the 80s, is living there. She actually did an interview with, I believe, Common a few years back. But really interesting story. She's still alive and well. She's probably in her 70s now, upper 70s, living in Cuba. She's actually I don't know if she is still, but she was on the FBI's most wanted list for quite some time.
Meditate with a stick of coke, I learn how to best the DC and SoCal meet on the track and see you once active fans with no probable cause. See, I've been trying to make it clear that I'm rap G.O.D. Ringing a new year with power circles only, shit on me. I'm out to scorch the earth, habitually torching verses to my years active fans with no probable cause. See, I've been trying to make it clear that I'm rap G.O.D. Ringing a new year with power circles only, shit on me.
She said, meditate with a stick of copal. Did you catch that? I'm like, is she talking about, I think she's still talking about the incense. It's something that the indigenous people of like Mexico, Central America, they do these things called sweat ceremonies. Again, I said she's really in tune with like the spiritual side of things. I don't think I've ever heard somebody say a stick of copal. I'll let it ride here.
The co-pilot how the best the DC and SoCal meet on the track and see your friend like Arafat. I intersect the Clarence sex in the side of Shakur. Commit the met in a gown with two straps and call it couture. Meditate with a stick of co-pilot how the best the DC and SoCal meet on the track and see your most active fans with no probable cause. See, I've been trying to make it clear that I'm rap G.O.D. Ringing a new year with power circles only, shit on me. I'm out to scorch the earth, habitually torching verses to my art that wants plus drop the opposition to one knee.
Again, it's put some respect on my name, right? Drop the opposition to one knee, where they're treating her as a god, which again, the song is called God Complex, right? Sick.
Coming through the forest as the hardest lyrical artist. Ghetto.
done quite a bit for Sa-Roc. If you want to go down to the different breakdowns, we have a folder that's dedicated entirely to Sa-Roc, and we went through quite a few of her older songs. Definitely worth checking out. If you're a fan of good hip hop and you like the intellectual breakdowns where we start going into looking at the context of what they're saying and really breaking it down and understanding the true meaning of some of these more what we call lyrically dense artists, man, show some love, like the video, but subscribe to the channel and see if you could find your favorite artist down in the folder. We've broken down everybody from Black Thought, Toby Wigway, J. Cole. I think there's some Lil Dicky on there. And but if you got any suggestions, you want me to check something out, some A$AP Rock or somebody lyrically complex, send it over. Let's get right to it.